Parshat Eikev features the concept of Birkat Hamazon, the blessing that we recite after consuming food. Grace after meals. V'achalta v'savat. You will eat and be satiated. Uverachta et Hashem Elokecha ala haaretz hatova asher natan lach. And you will bless Hashem your God for the good land that He gave you. And in fact, this is one of the very few, if not the only blessing that is actually mentioned explicitly in the Torah. That after eating food, we are to bless Hashem and to thank Him for the food that He gives us, for the goodly land that He gives us, for Jerusalem, etc. And this is what we refer to as grace after meals. The Talmud learns that this blessing is recited after we have a meal in which we have consumed bread and we feel satiated. The sages decreed and enacted that even if you're not entirely full, but you had a small amount of bread, nevertheless, you should bench. You should say Birkat Hamazon. Now, in modern times, a new concept came about which was called mezonot bread. Mezonot bread means it looks like bread, and perhaps it even tastes like bread, but it's not exactly bread. It's made in a different way. And because it's made in a different way, there is no need to have to wash one's hands before eating the bread or to recite the grace after meals. Why would a person not want to recite the grace after meals? So let's say, for example, they're on an aeroplane, they're traveling, and it's inconvenient to get out of your seat, to go to the bathroom, to wash your hands, to come back, and to say Hamotzi, and then to recite the grace after meals afterwards. So it's much easier to just say mezonot, which is the same blessing that we would say, for example, for crackers and for cakes, etc. So what exactly is mezonot bread? It's made in a different way, in that instead of using water to knead the dough, fruit juice is used. This is how mezonot bread is usually made. And this has created an enormous amount of controversy amongst the halachic authorities, and there's different opinions as to whether this is even valid. My late Rosh Hashiva, Rabbi Azur Goldfein of blessed memory, was opposed to this whole concept of mezonot bread for a number of different reasons, some of which are technical and I won't go into. But the one thing that he mentioned is, why do you want to get out of praising God? Why do you want to create a situation where you are not going to say grace after meals? As I mentioned, grace after meals, Birkat Hamazon, is one of the few blessings that is specifically required by the Torah. Most of the blessings that we say before eating food, after eating food, before performing a mitzvah, when we see different natural phenomena, those are all enacted by the rabbis. But this is a blessing that God Himself wants us to do. He wants us to thank Him for the nourishment that He gives us, for the land of Israel, for Jerusalem, and for other things. Why would we want to excuse ourselves? It seems to be so lazy and to be so unreasonable. And therefore, He actually would go out of His way at every meal to wash His hands, to sit down, and to have bread, and to bench afterwards, and to thank Hashem. Let's try to do this as much as we can. After having a meal with bread, or specifically to have a meal with bread, so that we can thank Hashem for all of the goodness that He bestows upon us. I wish you a Shabbat Shalom.